Okay, so as I mentioned, when you think about reporting in Folio, you first take a look at the data. What is the data that you want to pull out? And trying to understand the data model is going to be your first step. And on the Reporting SIG, we have a lot of support for that. It takes a little time to get used to all the different ways that the data are connected. When we look at resource access, we're basically looking at these check-in, check-out requests, courses, the circulation log, users. We have the area of metadata management, all the inventory. We have MARC, data import and data export. Under acquisitions, of course, orders, invoices, receiving, finance budgets, organizations, and then ERM, e-resource management, licenses, agreements, holdings, usage, etc. So when you dive into reporting and think about the data area they're going to pull from, the other thing to think about is, do I want to tie these pieces of data together? So if I'm going to do a circulation report, do I also want to add in some information from inventory about those items that were circulated? And maybe I want to add in some information from the finance areas about orders associated with those items that circulated. So it is possible to report across different areas of Folio. You have to think about the data model and understand how it works in order to create those reports. So first thing, resource that I just want to share with you is the reporting documentation that we have as part of the Folio documentation, and the link is right here in the presentation. So I suggest that you take a look at that just before you get started with reporting. We talk about the library data platform. There are other reporting options in Folio. We have in-app reports. We have other ways of reporting, directly through APIs and so forth. We focus on the library data platform because it's a fully, it has every data point from the Folio system available to us, almost every data point, and enables us to do have a lot of flexibility in the analyses that we're trying to do. So you'll see that in the documentation we've covered, and it is organized by release, so you can choose the latest release, and then just look at the reporting section to see, to learn about how reporting works for LDP and for Metadb, which will replace LDP eventually. A lot of people ask us about data coverage in the LDP. The LDP is pulling data from Folio modules, and there's a list provided of all the modules that it pulls data from. So you see that there's quite a bit available from Folio, available in the data warehouse environment. Okay, so that's a good thing to get familiar with. So we have built-in reporting options in the Folio application environment. There are in-app reports in such areas as orders. And so you can use that functionality from the menus and download to CSV the file, let's say a number of purchase orders that you'd like to take a look at, and work with that. One of the drawbacks of the in-app reports at the moment is that they're limited to those areas of Folio. So you only have finance reports, you only have other areas available to you. So they're useful in that realm, but they're kind of limited to that realm. You can also do API requests That requires some programming knowledge, and if you're interested in that, we can point you to the groups that are have delved into that. Okay, so we'll focus on the library data platform suite, which has been in use for a few years now. The Reporting SIG has several development groups to help support the development of these tools and resources so that you can learn to use them. So how does the LDP work? Well, it extracts data from the FOLIO modules into a relational database, and it makes it possible to engage in complex reporting and analytics using the FOLIO data. So you typically configure your LDP, if you have one, to update the FOLIO data overnight. So ours does a data transfer, and I'm coming from Cornell. It does a data transfer overnight. It takes anywhere between 10 and 13 hours to run the data transfer. If you have this option turned on, it will retain the historical versions of your data records so that you can view daily snapshots of FOLIO records if you want. When you're working with data, it's just important to remember that you're working with yesterday's data in the LDP. Metadb is the next version of reporting software coming in the LDP Library Data Platform Suite. It is extracting and transforming data from FOLIO on a near real-time schedule. So one of the biggest differences between LDP and Metadb is that you'll have very close to real-time data available in your data warehouse, data lake environment, as opposed to having yesterday's data. So this would make a big difference for some of the reports that really rely on immediate data. A good example that comes to mind for me is the service points report for circulation to show how much activity is happening in each of your circulation points in your libraries. If you need to know exactly what's happened within, up to the last 15 minutes, you would be able to see that information. Another example would be, something about loans, overdue loans. You probably want to see the most up-to-date information on that. So what's nice is that we're moving in this next evolution software to this close to real-time schedule. It has a different organization of the data tables. The leap from LDP to Metadb is not huge. You just need to understand how the tables are organized a little bit differently if you've been using LDP. So most folks, there are few universities who have implemented using LDP every day. Many are going live with Metadb directly, so they only have to learn it once and they're writing their code in Metadb. But again, there'll be support in the reporting SIG and reporting community for making that transition from LDP to Metadb, should you be one of the universities needing to do that. Metadb is going to have better data array extraction. So one of the things that we have for LDP right now is there are many derived tables that have been written to pull data out of the data arrays that still exist in the table. So that the tables, the first versions of the tables had most of the common elements, but the rest of the elements were in data arrays, which could be extracted, so just data blobs, if you will. It wasn't as easy to get to that data. So derived tables, one of the reasons we've written derived tables is to make that data extraction available in a table that is available to you to use for your query. So that's been very nice so far. With Metadb, more of that data is going to be extracted at the outset for you. So you will be able to write your queries to go directly to those data points rather than having to extract them out of data arrays. So lots of detail on that, but just to let you know that as the product continues to grow, it is becoming easier to use in these different kinds of ways. It also has full folio data coverage, so there's we've all along had most of the data, but Metadb will have everything, so you can get whatever you need. So there's a link here in the presentation, which I'll be making available later, to the Metadb code repository if you want to take a look at that. LD Lite is another part of the LDP suite. We had a special session on that earlier, so if you'd like to really dig in on that, you can check out Jennifer Eustace's presentation on that earlier today, and we'll have those materials available for the reporting community. So this is a tool that's part of LDP. It extracts data from Folio and applies transformations, just the same way that LDP and Metadb do, but it's a standalone tool. So you don't have to have a separate database as you do with LDP or Metadb to be able to use LD Lite. It connects to Folio through the APIs, so it's better for small reports. It will hit the transaction system directly, so this is not a tool to use with big, long reports. But it is a good solution for folks that don't have are not able to have a separate database, or who just want to use a lighter product. LDP Mark is a tool that converts the MARC records for both LDP1, Metadb, and actually also LD Lite from JSON into tabular format. So for those of you who've worked with MARC records, this is close to a miracle. We just love the market data extraction, because as most libraries who use MARC know, a lot of the inventory details are associated with MARC records, and really that's often the best master record for your report. And so it's really important to be able to report using MARC data. So all of the products allow that. And this is, I guess if you've used MARC, this table looks familiar to you, but this is a breakdown of the various MARC data points. And what's fantastic about this is that they are there. They are all broken out for you, rather than being contained in a data blob. The LDP Query Builder app is a new application that's being developed to enable you to report right from the Folio application. So it will show up as a menu item in Folio, and it allows you to interact with the LDP or Metadb database, and you're basically choosing columns that you'd like to report on. You could use some Boolean operators to build a very simple set of things that you want to look at, and then download it as a CSV right from the Folio application. So this is a nice tool that is being developed in order to make it easy for you to get simple reports from the application itself. Again, this is not going to be a robust tool for the kinds of complicated data analytics that we have to do for trend reporting and other topics, but it is good for day-to-day simple queries that you may want to run right from the application. So FOLIO Analytics is a public query repository that's been built from as part of this library data platform and Metadb project, with much support from the reporting SIG, along with Naseeb Nassar from Index Data. And we have both a derived table directories for both LDP and for Metadb under development by members of the reporting SIG who focus on development. We have a few development teams, and keeping those derived tables up to date and creating new derived tables as we find that they're needed is one of the primary functions of development teams. We also do sample queries and documentation and lots of other activities, but that is one of the main things that we do. So that's all available in that GitHub repo. So reporting tools, in order to let people dabble a little bit, get used to things, or if they haven't implemented LDP or Metadb yet, we have reference environments available for LDP and Metadb with just test data so that people who are just experimenting or curious or getting ready to go live and they don't have their environment yet can start to learn how to build reports and see how that all functions. So if you're interested in signing up for those, you just need to contact Nasib and ask for an account, and you can contact me or Scott from Reporting SIG if you need help getting started and getting connected. But those are wonderful resources that we have available for the project. That's a good place to start if you're just delving in. Most of the folks in the Reporting SIG have settled on dbeaver Enterprise Edition if they're really involved in reporting, or they can also use the free dbeaver product Community Edition. Enterprise has a few more tools available and is a little bit more robust if you're trying to run a lot of data through it. It's basically what we found. We sort of can judge how experienced our reporting users are based on whether or not they hit that wall with Community Edition versus Enterprise Edition. If you're interested in that, there's plenty of information online about dbeaver, and also you'll see that that's what people are using primarily in the Reporting SIG to develop queries. We've also just started to delve into Tableau dashboards, and Cornell Vandenestad has worked on many for us. And so this is another way that you can connect to your LDP or Metadb environment. There are numerous other reporting tools that connect to, sorry about that. That connect to LDP or Metadb. It's a Postgres database, and so there are many, many tools that connect to Postgres. We have settled in on dbeaver primarily because it's got a free version and the Enterprise Edition isn't too expensive, and it seems to do a lot of what we would like. So it's worked pretty well for us. We'll delve into dbeaver shortly. Actually, right now. I'm just going to show you a typical query in the LDP, a query on Metadb, and then a quick view at one of Vanda's dashboards on circulation, just so you can get a sense of what these things look like. Okay, so this is dbeaver, and just quickly show you create connections to different kinds of databases that you want to use. You'll see LDP listed several times here, and then Metadb environments, etc. And you can store your scripts in folders and in projects, and there's a lot of organization that you can get into as you're building your reports. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a loans and renewals query that is being run against our test environment. We're actually in New York, it's 5 o'clock. So we're just starting our data transfer, so I'm not going to hit our production system. We have a test system, which I strongly recommend. And so we'll be hitting that instead. So this is just a report to show a count of loans by loan policy, patron group, and material type. This is written by one of our reporting team members, Joanne Leary, and is used very commonly to just show us this information about loans. This is not an SQL teaching session, but there are a number of SQL training materials available or links available on Reporting SIG Wiki, and lots of training is available online for SQL. It is something that you'll need to get familiar with if you're going to really do reporting from LBP and Metadb, unless you're just going to be using, say, the LBP Query Builder app or something like that. It really is important to learn the basics of SQL, and we have support for using the data models in FOLIO with SQL, so we can help answer those questions as you work your way through queries. There are also a number of sample queries available on the FOLIO Analytics GitHub site, and also there are institutions who can share their queries with you if needed. So yeah, this is a simple query to pull that information. So from dbeaver, I'm just going to hit run, and this one goes pretty quickly. And you can see that my results are showing a date range, a library name, location name, patron groups, material types, loan policy. This is all in the query, and other data points. So if I want to, I have to just change my screen a little bit here so I can see it. There's an Excel output button. This is dbeaver Enterprise Edition. For the Community Edition, you can output to CSV and then just open it up as an Excel. But this is Enterprise Edition, so I can go directly to Excel. So it's just creating an Excel file for me to look at, showing all of these data points as column headings, and then the data right from the system that day within this date range that's been specified. So you have a lot of flexibility to show data using this method. So this is how we do most of our reporting, and just basically reports on circulation, finance areas, inventory, troubleshooting. The list is endless. Now I'm just going to pop over to a sort of an equivalent. It's loans and renewals by year. This is written by Stefan Dunbeck, who is part of the Reporting SIG coming from Leipzig University. And this was changed to work with Metadb, so using sort of the LBP query as a basis. He rewrote to point to the JSON objects a little differently and to use different table names, which is what you need to do for Metadb. And so now I'm going to, if you look at the top here, you'll see Metadb FOLIO Milana. This is just one of the reference environments that we have access to, because Cornell doesn't have a Metadb environment yet, but we will. So I'm just using this to show you a Metadb query running. This is a test environment, so there's not a lot of data. We have 2 records that came up, and so, but that's very typical in a reference environment. Okay, and so this is showing the same type of information, loans and renewals. This has a few more data points having to do with how many years and other pieces that Stefan added to it. So that shows you just basically what the day-to-day work of writing queries against LBP and Metadb involves. Over here on the left, you can see that we have the different environments, and you're able to just expand and look at tables The organization of tables, of course, is different. The schemas are a little different in MetaDB than they are in LDP, but sort of conceptually, it's very similar. The two are very similar, so it's not a big learning curve to jump from one to the next. Here we have, and again, as I was recommending, this is our production database at Cornell, and we also have a test database. So this way I can switch back and forth between the two, use one versus the other. It's very nice. So once you start getting involved, just making these connections to these different kinds of databases is really helpful. Being able to run things in a reference environment, your test environment, your production environment, etc. Okay, so the next thing I'll show you is just a quick view of one of our output. One of our Tableau dashboards. So this is showing circulation information. So you have, we had a little bit more depth in a session that we did for experiences of institutions with FOLIO reporting. Vandana talked about the dashboards in a little bit more depth there. And we also have brought that to reporting SIG presentations and so forth. So this is relatively new for us, but our users really like having, drop-down menus and colors and graphs, and it's a little bit more fun than looking at an Excel file. So, and also you can condense a lot of the information into these different views. So you can see here, do you want to just talk about this for a minute? I'm going to let Vandana kind of go through this because she put it together. So just one second.
Thanks. Yeah, I put in mine. Yeah, this one. Hi. So this is just a general circulation dashboard. For most of our dashboards, we try to start with just a summary of the data. You can get a quick overview over here to see what's happening day of the week or by month. And this often helps for any kind of staffing decisions that we want to make in places. When we first started off with dashboards, we weren't sure what people needed. So we tried to give them everything in the kitchen sink. And once people can see, that's when it's easier for them to choose. So I'm thinking it's the same with reports. If you ask people what they want, they're not always too sure. So this one next is like transactions by month and day. I figured it would have some use of some type. And also then, one thing good about Tableau is being able to filter. And this is not exactly working. It needs to reconnect. Okay. Our users find this very useful. They can use any kind of filter they want over here. Also, service point filters are useful here. And in some of the other dashboards, we have a little hover button for notes also. And this is transaction by month and date. These heat maps are popular because they show you at a glance where you have the highest number. The darker colors represent the higher numbers over here. Once again, material type and also action type. Like we don't really care about check-in. For the most part, we don't need to have staff for check-in. But if you want to just look at check-out, it's going to give you an immediate idea over here. And some of our dashboards have a lot of filters. If you've forgotten which ones you've set, you can just click on the reset filters button and it takes you back to everything around over here. So that's just a general view. And then we have transactions by time and day. Since I'm not a circulation expert, I'm not exactly sure what it's used for, but I think it's used. So I think that's about it. Sharon, do you want to?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, very nice.
This is great because it's just sort of, the maturity of working through what reports do we need and trying out new tools. It was really interesting connecting to the LDP with us. We found that using the custom query tool, we could actually take the queries that we had written originally for our go live and bring them right into the Tableau environment and very quickly hone down to just the data points that were in that query, so that if you wrote an orders query and wanted to just hone in on that, then you can start working with the orders data elements that are about that report. This circulation query, I'm not sure which query was used for this one, but maybe loans and renewals, which we just looked at, 2 queries. You can do multiple queries, so you can get, it really helped us from making that transition to starting to offer Tableau dashboards to be able to start with custom queries. So that's just another thing to show you flexibility that you have with different kinds of reporting tools. Go back to our regularly scheduled programming here. And what is the reporting SIG? This is our mission statement, and so we're really working together with any FOLIO participating institutions to examine their reporting needs and to offer advice on designing FOLIO data models and reporting solutions to the community. We develop sample queries. We provide a lot of documentation and training on FOLIO reporting so that people can not only put the data in, but get the data out. And we offer a place for subject matter experts and technical experts to engage in discussion and collaboration around these things. It's interesting because we're downstream of the transactional system, right? So you've got your data entry going into FOLIO, and on the reporting end, when you start working with the data in elaborate ways, you start to see how FOLIO was designed. We've actually given feedback to the FOLIO project on things that we found that are missing or not working quite right, or could be better if we did it this way. And those changes have been implemented because they've made sense. So it's been a wonderful collaboration to be able to, and also I think a service to be able to provide back to the FOLIO application development in that way. So we also support FOLIO reporting tools and platforms. We've made the library data platform a priority because of its engagement with SIG and its commitment to open source software development, the heart of FOLIO. So we also advocate for needed reporting features in FOLIO app development. So if we see something missing or not working right on the FOLIO app side, then we try to communicate that up and show examples. We also provide a lot of communication training around reporting, have lots of Slack channels available, lots of materials, regular meetings. So we have meetings twice a week, and Mondays are focused on development and other topics that come up, say changes to the derived tables, next release, what have you. And then Thursdays are right now targeted more toward introductory information, or someone may present on their library's go live with reporting. If there's a new tool that we'd like to do some training on, we'll often do that on Thursdays. But it's not strict that those are, sometimes we can get somebody who can do training, say on Monday. So it's flexible, but it provides a lot of opportunity for people to hook in at different levels of reporting. So if they're very advanced, and they're going to be more involved in the development and have more complex questions. And if we're just getting started, then we have a lot of support for, okay, here's how you build your first query. We have lots of roles available. Convener is now split into co-conveners. So Scott and I are in that role, and note-taking at meetings, liaisons. We are liaison currently to product councils, Jen Eustace, from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, part of 5 colleges. And the other roles that we have, if you're interested in joining, is leading development teams, we have a need for note takers. We love our subject matter experts because they will tell us about the new data changes and the changes in the data models in the different areas that we support, and bring new information from the SIGs that they are involved with. Reviewers, testers, we have a review board for all of the queries that go to our GitHub repository. There's a lot of quality control, and as part of viewer board participation, you are trained on taking a look at queries to make sure that they pass all of our requirements. Documentation writing, there's a documentation group, reporting group, and we're always looking for people to join that. And training, any kind of training that you'd like to do. We try to encourage folks at different institutions to get involved with training and bring new topics and fun stuff, troubleshooting SQL, what do you do with these duplicates, how do I use Mark, all kinds of topics. So we do try to encourage people to bring that to the SIG as much as possible. The reporting SIG has several subgroups, resource access. Well, let's see, resource, I need to update this slide because they just merged. Resource access and user management and metadata management are all one subgroup, and those are currently being led by Christy Thomas from the University of Chicago. Electronic resource management, currently led by Stefan Dombeck and Axel, and acquisitions, which is me and a bunch of other people doing great stuff. And Stefan, I think, is pretty much also helping to lead that. So we have our development meetings are getting merged with our reporting SIG meetings on Mondays. So we're trying to eliminate so many meetings. We have the review board, we have the documentation working group, and we have the DACH working group, D reporting, coming from the German institutions. So would you like to talk about any of that group at all? So we'll let you hear it from somebody who's on that group. Oh, okay, that's not going to that. But yeah, D reporting.
Just in short, this is a German-speaking group, and we just want to wrap up all the German requirements and to condense them and then bring to the SIG and exchange the requirements we have, and to give insights what we want, and we might have a crossover on the requirements so that we don't have to talk with that in different ways, so that we have a channel on like a path what the regional groups need, and then bring it to the international groups to have it all condensed. And that's what we are trying to do on this group. At the moment, we are working on the DBS statistics. These are the German library statistics, and see what is there already done in the community, and what other things may or is not there at this point. But this is just a way to, because that's something we have this international group, and we are speaking English in that, and some of the local communities are not so comfortable. So we are wrapping up all the things and bring that into the international group. That's linking from the regional to the international group. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Axel.
Axel's on several groups in reporting, and this is our newest. Does great stuff for reporting. Thank you. Next, we have projects. So we're working on a vision and strategy document. We have formed a review board, and we have some training available for the data model. So we're trying to focus on
helping people understand how the data model is designed and works in key areas of functionality. So there's training on resource access and user management, data model that Angela Zoss, our former convener, did. And that's available on our Reporting SIG wiki. And we also have that for acquisitions in ERM. And we've done a first draft of our data model training, and that's available. And we're planning to do a second version at some point soon. So lots of projects that the Reporting SIG is always working on. And so it's a wonderful way to get involved as well. Our wiki is available on the FOLIO site and provides, some helpful information just to get started with reporting. The meetings are all, noted. We all have a note taker for every meeting, so you can kind of see past topics if you want to go there. And there are links to a lot of documentation and training that are available on the site. Let me just pop over to that page. This page has grown quite a bit. So here's our data model training. I think this can be useful whether you're reporting or not, just to understand how FOLIO is put together. We need to do it because we need to understand it for the reports to make sure that we're getting the right data points in the right way from the right tables. Git is new for the reporting, not everybody, but many people in the reporting community using GitHub is a new thing. So we have some training on that. And then here's the SQL training that I mentioned. So there's some SQL training specifically in this environment using Metadb and LDP queries. And then you can see that there are several links to several different kinds of topics for training. Wow, this is just such a long list. I'm amazed at how much has been done. So it's just really lovely. And a lot of this, again, hats off to Angela Zoss for probably doing about half of this training at least. She was really focused on that. And so Scott and I are trying to continue that wonderful example by providing continuous training as part of our mission. So lots of resources there. At this point, I think we have all of our slides. And so, oh, no, there's one more. Just acknowledgements. A lot of this material is from some onboarding training that our very own Angela Zoss put together. So thank you, Angela. And the regular site that we have, there's a lot of information that I pulled from there, and the documentation on LDP and Metadb and the reporting documentation. So these are all wonderful resources for you just to get familiar with reporting if you're just getting started. So let me open it up to questions. And I do have Scott and Vandana and Axel here in the room, so we can answer anything, I think. So let me just open up the chat to see if there's anything coming through. Yes. Okay, yes, you can hear us. So any questions from the room about reporting? All things reporting? Okay, any questions from the Zoom? It's the end of the day, that's right. We should have brownies available via Zoom so that you could. Yes, we have a question in the back, and I'll just repeat it.
So you mentioned about LDP Mark. I know this is
Yes.
It's more like reporting, but
Yeah.
It's very interesting that the LDP can explore Mark record.
Yes.
So one thing that we really like smart people within FOLIO that you can export a list of everybody needs. Then using that you to export import to Mark, right? FOLIO. But a shortcoming of that is that is the search query capability very limited.
Yeah, in the application,
From LDPs, we can kind of like massage query that kind of things. So have you or the people use LDP as a tool for market exploring?
So there's a tool that you install called LDP Mark. When there are three main tools when you set up your LDP. There's the LDP tool, and that extracts the main public tables, so the main tables where the data lives in Folio. And then LDP Mark extracts the MARC records coming from SRS. So SRS MARC storage. And that puts it into a few tables having to do with SRS, having to do with MARC. And there's a MARC tab table that gets created that breaks out all the MARC pieces, the subfields, etc., into a columnar format for you, which makes it easy to report on. So it's not all just one big blob of data. So the LDP Mark tool, all that's doing is data extraction. The third piece is the derived tables that I mentioned. So that's Folio Analytics, and those are created to do more data extraction from the public tables. So you have to set up those three things, but focusing just on LDP Mark, it is extracting from your SRS records. I don't know if Scott, Vandana, or Oxel want to say more about SRS Mark or LDP Mark.
I have a lot to say about it. And that's
Okay.
I was just going to ask for clarification. Are you asking about export of the MARC records themselves? Or are you talking about identifying things? But this is really a reporting tool rather than the mechanism to export the actual records.
Right. So I think for reporting purpose, so we can come up with things of identify things that we need. As the tool possibly MARC is trash. So that's what I'm thinking that because LDP MARC can export all the JSON data MARC whole MARC. So could we use that as a tool for market instruction?
That that's what I that was the question I thought you were
I don't know. I would talk to Nasib Nassar about that, but I think it depends on what you intend to do with the MARC extraction. Yes, the question is, could we, since we're using LDP Mark to extract the MARC data from SRS records and use it for reporting, could we use that for other purposes, just to export the MARC data? Did you have a specific tool in mind, or?
Well, I think we haven't really tried thinking that much, but generally with FOLIO, we found it's sometimes hard to extract a set MARC record. So that's basically where we kind of started. When you want to extract subset MARC file, can you take advantage of LDP since you have LDP Mark? That would be a good tool.
I think based on
Nasib Nassar, wrote the LDP Mark tool, so he's going to be able to, answer the question: could you use that for other tools that do MARC export to kind of help, because it's difficult. It's worth looking at because it's working for reporting. But that is, going to be a matter of what kind of tool, what is the tool written in, and does that match up with what Nasib is doing. So I encourage you to reach out to Nasib with your question. It's a really cool idea. If anything, you might be able to get some ideas about to help with what you're trying to do with SRS record extraction.
Actually, I wonder if it's just asking in the side channel.
For
so that as it goes to a lot of people and
Absolutely,
Nice.
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, there's an LVP Slack site. Or it's LVP Metadb Slack site that you can subscribe to. So if you just see me afterwards, I can get you set up. And there's an LVP Mark channel in there, so you can. It would be a great question to post there. Could that help? Yeah, he's done quite a bit to extract Mark records for us, and that's hard. So it's one of the best things about all these tools is that we can use Mark. Yeah, that's all I heard when I joined this project was we need Mark, we need Mark, we need Mark. So we have Mark. Any other questions? Yes.
I know this is on the roadmap for DBeaver, but one of the challenges, David Bauer from
Yep.
University of Chicago.
Okay.
In access services, and so we often need to compare folio data to other data sources from our other systems, and that's not something DBeaver supports, and it's something that historically we only have Microsoft Access tools to do, which have their own limitations with LDP and Metadb due to the indexing. So I'm just this is again maybe something that I should ask on the Slack channel, but I'd be curious if anyone is aware of any tools that would allow that kind of cross data source pairing.
Well, Tableau. You can do anything. But it's expensive and you have to have the Tableau server. But
it's not that expensive because you just need a license for the one who's creating the news. The viewers don't need to pay.
Yeah, so I didn't. So sorry about that. The question asked by David is, are there tools that allow you to query across multiple data sources? Very common question. And I think, Scott, were you telling me that that's possibly coming down the road for DBeaver?
Oh, and actually David.
Oh, okay. So you've investigated it. Oh, good.
2025.
Oh, 2025. So you'd like to do it sooner. Axel.
I think Stefan Dombeck presented about 2 names 9.
Oh, 9, right. So Axel is pointing out that Stefan Dombeck did a presentation on 9, KNIME, which allows you to connect to multiple databases, different kinds of databases. And we were saying that Vanna and I were saying that Tableau lets you connect to multiple data sources as well. So if that's something that you're looking for and you don't want to wait till 2025, then you can take a look at those other tools. As long as it can read Postgres databases, you can use it with LDP Metadb environments.
And the recording of that session is on the reporting SIG.
Oh, yes, good point. The recording of the 9 session by Stefan Dombeck is available on the Reporting SIG site. So we have lots of demonstrations that are done about different reporting tools. So that is definitely one that's out there.
Axel, do you remember, is it open source? Yes, I thought it was.
Oh, should I do a 9 thing?
Probably revisit that. Yes.
Yeah, 9. So there you are.
That's the sound version that it's
So it has more than 300 connectors, so that's pretty cool. That sounds a lot like Tableau. But this is open source and Tableau is not. So there's that. Okay, wonderful. See, this is the great stuff that happens in Reporting SIG, is that somebody asks a question and somebody knows answers and has lots of interesting answers. So this is a great thing. Scott has a
I just had a question. How many people, has anyone tried AI generation with SQL?
A generation. Is it
AI.
AI, oh, AI generation for SQL. Natalia has. She's, I don't know if she's here. I don't think she's here. Has anyone
I'm curious,
tried AI generation for SQL? Let's see if our Zoom audience. Anyone?
There are actually SQL generators already out there. I know that, I just haven't played with them.
There is a dbeaver hook or something for AI, so they're just starting to experiment with that. Yeah.
Just wondering, because that's a good natural progression for
Yeah,
people who may not want to learn a lot of SQL.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm actually a virtual person and created through many SQL joins. And I'm not real. So, but how was the simulation? Was it realistic? Okay, none of our Zoom folks have done AI with SQL, but I think everyone's curious about it. So very good. So we'll have to, Scott and I will put that on our list for things to talk about at Reporting SIG. So we're always looking for the next interesting topic. So any other questions or comments or? Yes, Maura.
Yes, Laura, from the University of Chicago.
From University of Chicago.
I was just interested in the query number. And, when you were showing, sort of the static page, I had wondered if there was, if there was a place in there for a pretext search. So for instance, you're looking for, let's say a user, and you want to use their unique ID, like their email address. And you use the LDP to find it. That's the thing. It's extraordinary, so we know it.
Why don't I have a link? So the questions for the LDP query app, you want to be able to.
It's like, specify like the table and then do a free text search.
Oh, free text search on tables.
Or, in the table.
That would be nice. So can you do that now? No, you can't do that now. But I would suggest mentioning that to Naseeb, that that's something that you'd like, a free text search on a table. So Maura's come up with a great feature request, which is for the LDP query app to do a free text, enable you to do a free text search on a data point in a table, or a whole table, or what have you. Tell me where I can find this. So like a string search. Yeah, that's a great idea. But no, we can't do that right now. I can tell you that. But yeah, that's a great idea. I was gonna try to pull it up, but I've lost my link. But if yeah. What about 50 links for LDP? I have the open issues. But the reference environment I wanted to kind of jump to take a look at. But yeah, I can pull up the slide again. LDP app, there are some really good ideas for future development that are underway. One is to be able to run queries from the LDP query app that are located in another repository, and give you the output right in the app. That's a compelling idea that's being tested right now. Trying to remember what some of the other features are that are coming with that. But right now it's, basically you're just looking for particular data points on particular tables, and you can do some Boolean operators, but nothing like a string search.
I would say one more future enhancement, which is coming fairly soon. Next couple of months, is to actually connect Metadb to Pantry.
Yeah.
So you can only connect to JSON instead.
Scott just reminded us that the LDP Query Builder app doesn't connect to Metadb yet, but it's in the works. It does connect to LDP now. It's been available for since Nolana, I think, that has been out there. There's a reference environment, but I didn't create a link to that. But if you are super curious, I can find it and show you after or something. Any other questions? Or comments or cool things coming down the road?
What report do you run most often at your library?
What
report do you run most often?
Oh, okay. What reports do we run most often at our library? Probably, well, I have to tell you by area, if that's okay. For the selector reports, we have a report on approved invoices with bibliographic data that our selectors love. And that's a big one. The accounting group runs daily invoice reconciliation reports, so that's very common, and if they don't work, I hear about it. So if they break, they get fixed very quickly. Any kind of reports for our selectors are very popular, very commonly used. We have this whole series for them, the dashboards, and we also have automated reports. So if they want to look at an Excel download, they can, of whatever they need, split funds, what have you. For circulation,
and you give them some IML.
Oh, right. There's an ILL and BD and bar direct reports are done every day to see what's the status is for those missing items. For circulation, loans and renewals. I mean, a lot of the finance report, there's a whole series of finance reports that get run every day, like just looking at orders, looking at invoices, looking at funds, and what is the current status on all that. So those are big for both accounting and for selectors, and just anyone who has to deal with purchasing, acquisitions, purchasing decisions, and so forth. Yeah.
As far as getting finance reports, are those locked down by permissions?
Yes. Yes. So the question is, are our finance reports locked down by permissions? They are, and that's why I'm not showing you any of those dashboards. So, which is a bummer because they're some of our best dashboards. Scott he was showing us some financial stuff and said, "Oh, it's been vetted, don't worry." So, but yeah, Cornell, we restrict the access to the financial data to our accounting department and to the selectors and to the reporting group so that we can fix it if it breaks.
Does that mean that you have to grant permissions to the LDPI or through FOLIO to keep people, to make certain that it only goes to your, you have to grant a permission to only those staff who ought to see it? Do you grant that permission through FOLIO, or is it locked down in a different way?
Yeah, security through obscurity, sort of. If I am a circulation staff member and I know how to run a finance report and I have access to the LDP, I can run that report because we currently, and certainly as the software evolves and there's more capability with user accounts, the way that the LDP software is written, you can have multiple accounts. But just the complexity of having different security roles with a set of tables that is vast and functionality that is cross-domain is pretty complicated. And so we have avoided that. So we just have one user role for access to our LDP. We encourage people just in other areas not to be running finance reports and that sort of thing. And they really don't care. So it's, but it is something that we've grappled with. So I think as future versions of LDP Metadb are created, being able to lock down access by security role is going to be an important feature in the future, and how that is manifested is going to be just a matter of, how are we going to write this code so that we can do that kind of thing. Right now, the things that we limit access to are our automated reports in finance and our dashboards in finance. And because those are the popular ways to look at the data, most people are viewing the data that way rather than going to the trouble of running the report in the LDP. So, but yes, it is something that future versions of our data access environment should protect, is security rules here. So great question.
I just wanted to add there that people who drive as well and so on with
But
and also the finance data
yeah.
The selectors don't really want to talk about have that covering. But sometimes there are all these contracts that when the stuff problem.
So fun is providing just a little bit more information about the kind of data that we have, the kind of security and so forth. So any questions coming from our Zoom or anyone else, or other topics, questions? Yeah, it's a great question. Right, derived tables. The derived tables question. All right, 10 points for Laura Schluck, who has asked the question of the hour. Good job, Laura. I wish I could give you like a piece of tiramisu or something across the internet. But this is definitely a topic that we've been talking about in our groups. So the question is, how are you thinking about the usage of the derived tables as they're not instantly updated as the other ones? So that's so Laura, I assume you're talking about Metadb, because in Metadb, the derived tables won't be updated live. Eventually, you will have more options to do that kind of stuff. But right now, the derived tables are just typically on a nightly schedule. I think you can do it a little more often, but I'm not sure how. Well, Scott, do you want to take this one? I'm not running Metadb at Cornell, so he's really in a better position. But yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Hi. There are a couple of answers to that. The first is that these are about to be in Metadb, there's a plan to eventually start writing the queries, rewrite all the queries we've done so far, so that they no longer call the derived tables.
Yeah.
Which I think means eventually we'll be looking at not maintaining derived tables, would be my expectation. But the other thing is there are a couple iterations coming in related or enhancements to Metadb. One is there will be something related to scheduling derived tables, where you can schedule a specific table to be run at a specific time every day or every hour or whatever it is. Because it's a single table, it's not so hard. It can be done more frequently than nightly. And so there are plans for a scheduler.
there's plans for something that makes it more like real time, but that is, I don't think any time in the near future. So I hope that kind of answers the question. Does
that help, Laura?
Did that help, Laura? Yeah, thank you.
Here, well,
No.
she the chat. Where's the chat? I have to open it from here.
Oh, there's a new message.
Sorry, there we go. There we go. Definitely. Thanks for the answer. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. That's a great question. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I turn it back to you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Scott Perry. So yeah, University of Chicago is show-offs. They're running Metadb already. So they're working with this question as well. So thank you, Laura. Great question. That's definitely impacting our development groups. We're kind of reorienting ourselves to this new way of working with we won't have to maintain the derived tables as exhaustively as we have. There will be, as far as I understand from Stephen, a continued need for some derived tables because they aren't all just about pulling data out of data arrays, but they'll still be available. But yeah, you'll have more options for the scheduler, and in the future, you'll be able to get the data in Metadb because it'll be extracted if it's in the data arrays. There would be less data array action happening. So great. Any other questions about reporting? Okay, well, I think if there are no other questions, I think we're ready to wrap up. Thanks everybody for attending. Hope that was helpful. And thank you to those who attended online. Really appreciate your questions and your participation. And thank you for being here virtually. I'll see you all at the next reporting event. All right, thank you everybody.